live stream. This is the second one of the day, so as promised, I wanted to bring you guys two because of my round of medicine I've been taking has been putting me on my butt. So I appreciate you guys being gracious with me. Welcome back to the second live stream of the day, guys. Welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kieran Smith, and we are back on the corner. All right, guys. So you know the drift. Call me Q. Here we are. What up, everybody? We back on the corner. Let's go through these four clips that we have really quick tonight. I'm probably gonna go about 7-8 minutes into each one. We got shout out to Assembly Required with Stacey Abrams, Trump and the rise of Christian nationalism. So we're gonna take a look at that. We got the Joy Reid show, Trump's DC takeover, the start of martial law. So Joy Reid is asking that question. We'll chime in and take a look at that. We got RSBN. Shout out to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Shout out to them. We react to them on the channel here often. Live replay. Press. Trump holds bilateral meeting with President Zelensky and European leaders. And that was yesterday, I believe. And then we'll end a live stream with shout out to Benny Johnson. Internet rages as illegal alien truck driver kills 3 Americans with semi. California gave them the license. Way to go, California. We reacted that to on the first live stream. So this is actually going to be the second one. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the live stream. You guys make sure that you're good, you're grounded, you're regulated before you take this in because news can be triggering. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the live stream without further ado. First up, we got Assembly Required with Stacey Abrams, Trump and the rise of Christian nationalism. Let's take a listen.
Do not believe that all men and women are.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44
are created.
Thank you, YouTube. Thank you for nothing.
Matthew Dowd says that 1/3 of the American people do not believe that all men and women are created equal. And to that I would say, well, who are those people? Are they stupid people? Are they evil people? And I'm not sure you can be well, whole, healthy, and believe that not all people are created equal.
Welcome to Assembly Required with Stacey Abrams from Cricket Media. I'm your host, Stacey Abrams. If you're a regular listener to Assembly Required, you likely know 3 things. 1, I'm from a very large family. 2, I grew up in Mississippi.
Not all people are created equal.
Cricket Media.
Welcome to Assembly Required with Stacey Abrams from Cricket Media. I'm your host, Stacey Abrams.
Okay, Kirky.
If you're a regular listener to Assembly Required, you likely know 3 things. 1, I'm from a very large family. 2, I grew up in Mississipippi. And 3, my mom was a librarian and my dad was a shipbuilder.
Shout out to Stacey.
But in 1989, my parents changed all of our lives. They moved the 8 of us from Mississippi to Georgia because they heard a call to the ministry. For the next 3 years, my parents were full-time graduate students at Emory University, pursuing their Masters of Divinity. When Mom and Dad became elders in the United Methodist Church, their roles had changed, but their core ethos had not. My parents had raised us in the church, first Missionary Baptist and then United Methodist. Christianity had been a part of my life for as long as I could remember. It also undergirds my political philosophy and my activism. Lately though, too often I don't recognize the Christianity I practice when it's described by a distinct group. The dissonance isn't just mine. A couple of months ago, after our episode on David Graham's book on Project 2025, we heard from a listener who asked a question that got our attention. She was responding to our discussion of Christian nationalism embedded in Project 2025, and she wrote, quote, "I consider myself a Christian, and I cannot discern any Christian values. Could someone explain what values of Christianity the Christian nationalists are drawing on? Anything related to the teachings of Jesus?" That conflict is the topic we are going to tackle today. My Christian faith is deeply important to me. I grew up in a family that taught me that I cannot call myself a Christian and forego my responsibility to help those more vulnerable than myself. And yet, in today's political discourse, questions of what Christianity is and how it is used vary dramatically. Understanding how Christianity intersects or is manipulated by political ideology is crucial to how we navigate this present threat of authoritarianism. Because religion is one of the favored tools for pitting us against them, for imposing constraints or granting freedoms, for justifying acts of grace or condemnation. This is part of step 7. In this case, using religious identity to divide and ostracize and cast blame on others. So let's start with some definitions. Christian nationalism, or more accurately, white Christian nationalism, is an extremist, anti-democratic ideology whose leaders believe the United States was founded to be a Christian nation only for Christians. This ideology is aligned with white supremacy, and in practice is more about identity than faith. Its adherents believe Americans must be a specific kind of Christian, conservative and white, to the exclusion of all others. Christian nationalist leaders have been key allies of President Trump since his first election, and in 2024, then vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance appeared at a Christian nationalist town hall. There is little daylight between their espoused policy aims and the administration and Republican Party moving swiftly to put them into effect. Yet, I hold to a Christian tradition rooted in what Representative James Talarico describes as the ability to love Judas, not just Jesus. My approach to the faith champions the ability to do the hard parts of tending to the outcast, hosting the immigrant, and putting others first. This version of Christianity has not received as much media attention, nor has it been as prominent in current political narratives. As a Christian, I also believe that one of America's core strengths is our diversity, including our religious diversity. While much of this conversation centers Christianity, this is vital because the threat of Christian nationalism is the elimination of our status as a secular democracy. America, despite the fervent rewriting of history, was founded as a nation where religion is separate from government and no one religion is supreme. Despite an ongoing battle to scrap this basic tenet, a fight as old as our country, the separation of church and state ensures that all people of all faiths or no faith are welcome. That America is a nation where we are all equal regardless of our identity. Yet when Christian nationalism becomes conflated with Christianity, America itself is at risk. The Christian faith is not the same as the political doctrine of Christian nationalism. They use the guise of religion to undermine our Constitution and twist Christian values to legitimize their demonization of the gay and transgender communities, the erosion of reproductive rights, the brutal treatment of immigrants, discrimination against people of color, and their wholesale abandonment of the poor. But believe me when I tell you, none of this aligns with Jesus' teachings. But unfortunately, the role of right-wing religious leaders influencing our nation and our politics is nothing new. The modern religious right, birthed as a political movement to protect school segregation and deny Jimmy Carter the presidency, has always pursued regressive policies and tactics that are anathema to the central beliefs of Christianity. Since the beginning of this movement, right-wingers in power have wielded faith as a tool of oppression rather than liberation. But just because it's loud doesn't mean it's right. In order to help us understand the threat that Christian nationalism poses and how faith can instead be a powerful tool for progress, I have two extraordinary guests. Bishop William Barber, who has many titles, President of Repairers of the Breach, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, and professor at the Yale Divinity School, and Father Greg Boyle, the founder of Homeboy Industries, Jesuit priest and author. And a quick note, I know that many of our listeners come from other faith traditions or no faith tradition at all. I promise all of you, you'll find something to take with you from this conversation. So stick around.
Monday CRM has the best AI features in the game.
Especially in sales.
Hands down.
So for me, email composition works like magic. You know me, I'm not a great writer, but AI helps me keep it super professional, super engaging, no more embarrassing typos.
I am so delighted to be joined by Father Greg Boyle and Bishop William Barber. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Honored to be here.
So thank you so much to both of you.
The reason I want to have this conversation today is that I did an episode a few weeks ago with David Graham, who wrote a book on Project 2025. And as part of that conversation, we talked a lot about how Project 2025 was written to pursue the Christian nationalist goals. A listener then wrote to us and asked us to explain what the values of Christianity are that Christian nationalists are drawing on. And yeah, I thought it was a good question. I haven't talked about my faith often on the show, but I spend a lot of time in that conversation in lots of other places, and I think it's an important conversation to have. I know a lot of our listeners come from a wide range of faith traditions or are secular, but this is a conversation that has both religious connotations, but has very important cultural and political connotations. So at the most fundamental level, I have a really simple question for each of you. And I'm going to start with you, Father Boyle. What are Christian values?
Well, for me, I always kind of distill it down to what are the things that Jesus took seriously? And I think there are only four things. They're big things, but there are only four of them. And that's inclusion, nonviolence, unconditional loving kindness, and compassionate acceptance. And so I think if people want to take seriously what Jesus took seriously, then they embrace those principles. And so the 8 Beatitudes is a way of kind of telling us where we need to stand, that we're standing in the right place if our struggle is involved with justice, and if we're peacemakers, and if we're single-hearted. And so this is a guidepost for people, I think, as Richard Rohr says, we need to move from the 10 Commandments to the 8 Beatitudes. So we're trying to find a way to distill what the faith is that can have the clarity of invitation, and not just as an indictment of what we're not doing, but to kind of invite people to embrace something very specific and colors how we operate. And so if inclusion is in fact, one of the things that Jesus absolutely takes seriously, then that colors how you see mass deportations and the detentions that are happening as we speak here in Los Angeles, for example.
Bishop Barber?
Well, thank you for asking a whole class in that one question. What is thank you, really, Trade Station. More to start there. But I think, first of all, even if you don't get to the so-called New Testament, if you're in the Hebrew Bible, we start with what Frederick Herzog said was the politics of God. And even if you look at, say, the 10 Commandments, most people who are begging to put the 10 Commandments up really wouldn't want them if they understood what they mean. I mean, how do you say you believe in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, but then you pass a bill that will kill 51,000 people by denying them health care in the first year alone? The good thing about Christian, when we say the word Christian actually was an insult in the Bible. It was an insult that the power structure threw at the people who were the people of the way, the people who followed Jesus. And today, one of the first things we have to do is take the name Christian off of Christian nationalism. We have too many people just trying to throw the name Christian on any and everything. We have a sermon and we have a servant. We don't have to guess where Jesus stood. In his first public sermon, Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach good news to the poor. The word there translated in Greek was protokos. It means those who've been made poor by economic exploitation. And then he listed all of the people that the Roman Empire dismissed, degraded, and destroyed. The broken, the blind, the bruised, and all of those made to feel unacceptable. In his last sermon, and he was almost killed that day, by the way. First sermon almost got him killed. Last sermon, he said, every nation, every political structure will be judged by how we treat the least of these. The sick, the prisoner, the immigrant, the thirsty, the hungry, the least of these. So we don't have to guess. We have a servant and a servant. We have a book and we have practice. And what we find when we look at that is so much of what's being called Christian is at best theological malpractice, but at worst is heresy. And heresy is not a word I came up with. One of the goals of the ancient fathers and the ancient people in the church was to distinguish between what was theology authentic and what was not. And we're in a sense, we need a Nicene council, but a modern day one now. Because there are some things we need to stop even repeating that is Christian, because it does not line up with the servant and the sermon, the book.
Wow, look at this. 94% of people believe company culture is important to an organization's success. Frankly, I have no idea what the other 6% are thinking. You know, usually when people look up ways to improve culture, they look for best practices. And best practices are good, but they're even better when you put them with best principles. Since Bamboo HR was founded, we've looked for principles we believe will make our people, and in turn,
And the person of the book.
When I was running for office in 2018, when I stood for governor, I had already been in political office for 11 years. When I ran the first time, it was to run for state legislature in 2006. And my parents were living in Mississippi. I was having a conversation with my mom and dad one day, and my father said, you know, have you started going to churches yet? And I said, no, I actually have been declining invitations. And my mother said, why? And I said, well, you guys raised us, you know, we were very politically active as children. I was very active in college politics, but I'm also, you know, very religious. And I said, I just don't feel comfortable melding the two. And my dad laughed and he said, Stacey, the Bible's nothing but politics. And he and my mother both said, you have this responsibility to meet people where they are. And often that's in places of faith. So it's not about going there to do politics. You're going there because people's faith and lived experience comes out in political action. And so Bishop Barber, I'm going to stay with you because you've built a life that builds and blends faith and political action. You build coalitions, you train other religious leaders in how to build political movements. Can you talk a bit about how you came to this work and what calls you to this?
All right, shout out to them. You guys can head over to Assembly Require with Stacey Abrams and watch the rest of that. Shout out to them for talking about Christian nationalism, their faith, their background, kind of where they come from. I mean, hey, the rise of Christian nationalism is something that a lot of people are afraid of. It's not a new topic. It's not something that's newly talked about. And a lot of people are afraid of it, rightfully so. They don't understand it, where it's coming from, what it stands for, what it actually means. So we'll continue to follow that just to see, you know, what happens with the whole Christian nationalism thing. It seems to be a small movement right now. All right, we're going to switch gears and go over to the Joy Reid Show. Trump's DC takeover, the start of martial law. This is the Joy Reid Show. Let's do
And here we go. All right, we're live. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for working with us through these gremlins. Oh, the little gremlins just love to play with us. They love to do their little thing. So welcome to the Joy Reid Show. We appreciate y'all being here. Let me shout out some of our favorite people, our Team TJRS people. Vera Blanchard shouting you out. Thank you so much for joining Team TJRS. Let me also shout out Ruth Arlene Howe, Sherry Brown, Deborah W. Hardwick, and Kim Keating. So yes, we indeed are live. Thank you all for being here very much for me. Let's get into what's going on around the world. Donald Trump is spending this Friday in Alaska, or as he called it this week, Russia. Well, this morning he warmly received Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Okay, when he received Vladimir Putin this morning, complete with a red carpet. He walked him down off of a flight that he got off of straight from Moscow, with Putin receiving the best of treatment, because of course Donald Trump loves Vladimir Putin, deeply respects him. We're going to pull that video up as soon as we can. But you can see that Donald Trump is desperate to go ahead and fight for that Nobel Peace Prize based on the reception that he gave to Putin. And of course, We know that Alaska is a territory that Moscow actually sold to the United States in 1867. Oh, here we go. There they are on the red carpet together, looking very happy together. Donald Trump and a man he would like to be his bestie, walking the red carpet, giving him the best treatment. By the way, the last time that Vladimir Putin was in the United States, it was in 2015 in New York, when he had a tense meeting at the United Nations with President Obama. Word on the street, knows that Putin is low-key racist. I'm just cannot verify that personally, but if true, that would make it track and make it make sense. Why Donald Trump, why Vladimir Putin, fellow war criminal, Bibi Netanyahu, and Trump get along so well. Now, Trump and Vlad are preparing to hold peace talks over the future of Ukraine, and according to the Rupert Murdoch-owned Daily Telegraph, Trump is prepared to sell out America's mineral wealth in exchange for a deal. Here's what the Telegraph is reporting, that he may offer Russia access to our rare earth minerals, the rare earth minerals owned by the United States, many of which are based in Alaska, and Vladimir will stop making war on Ukraine and just keep part of the land that he's stolen so far. The Telegraph is also reporting that Trump may be prepared to let Putin treat Ukraine like Israel was treating Gaza, namely turn it back into a Russian protectorate, but with some sort of limited self-governance like Gaza used to have, something that the White House, of course, denies. That is the Telegraph's reporting, and they're standing by it. The Telegraph is also calling the Alaska summit a 1930s throwback. And if you pull up A3, I will go ahead and read that. Donald Trump said that within 2 minutes of meeting Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday, he will know exactly whether or not a deal can get done to end the war in Ukraine. For the Ukrainians and Europeans, there is more than just a whiff of Munich about this summit, with neither party receiving an invitation for the crunch talks. In 1938, Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, Edouard Daladier, and Neville Chamberlain of Britain agreed to carve up Czechoslovakia without representation from the Czech government. The concern is that this could happen once again, with Trump and his MAGA acolytes busy discussing land swaps and criticizing Volodymyr Zelensky for arguing that his constitution bars him from doing so. On the other end of the negotiation is Putin, an autocrat who believes Ukraine is a work of fiction and a mortal threat to his country, unquote. And one thing that is clear is that Trump is hoping to squeeze a Nobel Peace Prize out of all of these efforts, whatever they wind up doing to Ukraine. Donald Trump desperately wants a Pulitzer, and according to Courier News, Donald Trump actually called Norway's finance minister last month and again begged him for the Peace Prize during a call ostensibly to discuss his other favorite thing, taco tariffs on Norway. What do we even import from Norway? I don't know. I mean, is he threatening more tariffs if he doesn't get the Peace Prize? Inquiring minds want to know. And apparently this isn't even the first time that Trump has reached out to the home of the Peace Prize to demand the honor that he has not earned. He didn't earn it, but he wants it because the black president got one, so he has to have one too. Godspeed, Ukraine. Good luck. Meanwhile, the please stop paying attention to the Epstein files Trump military takeover of the District of Columbia is well underway, complete with the National Guard on the streets on the Howard University campus and lots of protests. We've got video of some of those protests from last night. Those may not be loading, so we're just going to move on. Trump's fascist invasion is making the nation's capital look and feel like a war zone, or maybe like South Africa during apartheid, with federal and local police accosting mainly black and brown people and demanding IDs. From container. Racist, putting up a sort of racist MAGA summer in D.C., as well as in multiple other cities that all have one thing in common, namely a black mayor. Now, last night I co-hosted a State of the People emergency town hall with Angela Rye and Brittany Packnett-Cunningham. I spoke with 3 black mayors who are facing this hell: Karen Bass of Los Angeles, Barbara Lee of Oakland, and Brandon Johnson of Chicago. I will note that Mayor Raskolaka of Newark also appeared in that town hall. But we led off with the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. And I asked her about the executive order from D.C. Police Chief Pamela A. Smith, which announced full cooperation between D.C. Metro Police and Trump's federal police and the National Guard. Now, here is a piece of that interview from last night with Muriel Bowser.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting starts in 10 minutes. Or you're cramming for an exam the night before, but can't bear to keep your eyes open to read one more textbook chapter. Or you're reviewing a dense legal document that could change your life forever. Or you're proofreading your thesis one last time before you submit it to make sure there aren't any errors. No matter what you have to read, we could all use a second pair of eyes to help us retain information and put our best foot forward. Enter Speechify, a reading assistant powered by artificial intelligence and deep learning, and designed consciously for students and working professionals who want to get more done. Speechify does the reading for you, so you can spend less energy reading and more energy comprehending. Choose your listening speed. Start at 230 words per minute and build to 500 words per minute, which is 2.5 times faster than most people read. Choose from a range of incredible voices that use human inflection, so you can stay engaged without getting tired. Don't have enough time to finish? Take your reading on the go with a single click. Best of all, Speechify is free. Click on the button to download now.
About what happened in this executive order. The DC police officers may now assist federal immigration enforcement efforts by sharing information about people not in custody, including those encountered at traffic stops. They may also assist by transporting federal immigration agency employees and their detained suspects. In a statement, the department characterized the order as a clarification rather than a policy change. The quote being, under the president's executive order, MPD services have been requested to assist ICE with transportation of detainees and traffic stops. I have 3 questions regarding that, Madam Mayor. Number 1, that executive order came from your police chief. Were you aware of the executive order, and is this under your authority?
It's pursuant to the presidential executive order. And the presidential executive order is in compliance with the DC Home Rule Charter. And the president's executive order compels the mayor of the District of Columbia to supply police services that are in accord with the emergency declared by the president for federal purposes. So if
But are traffic stops federal services, Madam Mayor? Because a traffic stop, last I checked, is not a federal service. So why would the MPD be assisting ICE in traffic stops?
A federal purpose in the District of Columbia is broad because the District of Columbia is the seat of the federal government.
So you're saying that a traffic stop in DC is a federal matter?
That's correct.
Well, a funny thing happened about 40 minutes after that interview. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced part 2 of her takeover, announcing that the police chief will now report to the head of the Drug Enforcement Agency. And that's her new boss. And here are their pictures. And I'll just let you guess why she's out, according to Pam Bondi, and he's the new boss. I'll just let you noodle on that. Now, DC is now suing. The district attorney general, the district attorney general announced the lawsuit today, with the police chief now changing her tune and saying, quote, in my nearly 3 decades in law enforcement, I have never seen a single government action that would cause a greater threat to law and order than this dangerous directive. And the DC Attorney General, Brian Shaw, added that the takeover will wreak operational havoc. Joining me now is former DC Metro Police Officer Michael Fanone, who hosts the excellent Michael Fanone Show on Substack, as well as Mark Thompson, host of the Make It Plain podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast days. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for being patient.
Thank you for having us, Joy.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I want to start with you, Mike Fanone. As former DC Metro Police Officer, what do you make of this idea that now, at least according to Pam Bondi, the Metro Police now report to Donald Trump and the DEA?
I mean, I think it's outrageous. I listened to the press press conference. I heard their, quote unquote justification for, this really unprecedented maneuver. And it just doesn't add up. Trump was cherry picking crime stats going back as far as 2023, talking about the spike that Washington, D.C. experienced in homicides, which was significant. And it was, concerning. That being said, those are not the numbers that, that Washington, D.C. is experiencing right now. And so how is it that, that a move like this that is completely unprecedented is justified?
And just as somebody who walked the beat, who was a Metro cop, what does that do? Because I asked a couple of DC activists this question, but I want to ask you that as well from the other side, from the point of view of the officer. If you're now essentially being told you need to drive around these federal agents, you're both going to jump out of the same Metro Patrol car, and then those agents can essentially demand the ID of anyone, according to the federal authorities. They're saying even based on how they look, based on their accent, so essentially profiling people, and you're the Metro officer that's with them, and that the officer then can also provide information about people, even if they're not detained. What does that do to the relationship between police officers and the people that they are supposedly protecting and serving?
Trust.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who worked there for 20 years, it's difficult enough to establish and maintain trust between law enforcement and the communities that we're charged with protecting and policing. That being said, it's just another strain on that relationship. And to be honest with you, as having a completely different perspective now, because for the first time in my adult life, I'm not a police officer. I'm a citizen, and seeing armored vehicles patrolling the streets and seeing police officers enforce these, oftentimes unconstitutional policies of this administration, it's disgusting. I quit the police department in 2021. I would have most certainly quit regardless of, my experience on January 6th had I, lived or continued on in the department to experience this. It should outrage every American. It should outrage the officers themselves. The officers themselves should, if they were going to honor their oath to the Constitution, refuse to participate in that type of activity.
Well, and I would think that it would have.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. So you guys can head over to the Joy Reid Show and watch the remaining of that. The title is Trump's DC Takeover, the start of martial law. So you guys go ahead and run over and take a look at that. We're going to switch gears now and go over to RSBN. Shout out to Right Side Broadcasting Network. They covered live replay how Trump holds bilateral meeting with President Zelensky and European leaders. Let's take a listen.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the President of Ukraine with us. We've had a lot of good discussions, a lot of good talks, and I think progress is being made, very, very substantial progress in many ways. We had a good meeting, as you know, just a short while ago with the President of Russia, and I think there's a possibility that something could come out of it, and today's meeting is very important. We have, I guess, the seven very powerful leaders from Europe, and we're going to be meeting with them right after this meeting, and thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for the invitation, and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you, and using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, adopted children, and my wife, First Lady of Ukraine. She gave the letter. It's not to you, to your know what?
I want
Yeah, so it's a sensitive topic, yeah, it is. And thanks to our partners, and that you supported this format, and after our meeting we can have leaders who are around us, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Finland, you name them, I mean, all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much for being here.
President Trump.
Yes, Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. So, President Zelensky, you say in the Post-Times today, Russia must end this war, which it itself started. President Trump, you say President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, which is
I think that's true. I think we're going to have a meeting. I think if everything works out well today, we'll have a trilat. And I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
And is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. It's been almost 4 years now that a lot of people were killed last week. A lot of people last week, I mean, millions of people killed, but a lot of people last week for whatever reason, a big number, a lot of soldiers, on both sides. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
And as you met with Putin on Friday, today you've got President Zelensky here. As you listen to Russia and Ukraine, which side has the better cards?
Well, I don't want to say that. I'm just here to be, look, this isn't my war. This is Joe Biden's war. He's the one that had a lot to do with this happening, and we want to get it ended. And we want it to end good for everybody. We want it to end good. The people of Ukraine have suffered incredibly.
President Zelensky, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple of years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today has been a lot of attacks and a lot of.
Would this make you buy a Ridge carry-on? 2 people could win a Lamborghini Huracan Sterrato, a Hennessy Velociraptor, or $100,000? Hold on, let me explain. This is Daniel and his dad, the founders of Ridge.
We're here to introduce the Ridge.
They set out to make the most badass experience for guys upgrading their carry-on, thinking, what's cooler than exotic vehicles and cash? So they decided 2 special people are going to win the sweepstakes of a lifetime. All by upgrading to this, the premium Ridge carry-on. We've spent millions of dollars in research, refining, and testing, as well as thousands of hours making sure Ridge carry-on is the last one you'll own. And you get 4 times entries for the chance to win our sweepstakes. It's made with a tough polycarbonate shell absorbing and spreading energy from the toughest impacts, while still being lightweight enough to be picked up with your pinky. And most of all, it fits everything you need while staying compact, still keeping you organized while traveling. We get it. There are cheaper carry-ons out there. But after all the research and hard work we've done making the best carry-on ever, why wouldn't you buy a Ridge carry-on to get the chance to win the vehicle of your dreams?
So this is it, the Sprint half-tight. So the best way to explain the Sprint half-tight is that it sits right between our distance half-tight and our Northmore Shore. This is for those of you who want to go fast. Perfect for the 3 to 5 miler every morning. Also light enough for sprint workout, track workout, interval training. So effectively, if the distance half-tight and the Northmore Shore had a baby, this would be it. Everyone should feel comfortable in a half-tight. The most important feature on this is really the fabric. It's what we call a warp knit fabric, which just means that the way it was knit is circular and it creates coverage. So the fabric's not going to be sheer, but at the same time, it allows us to go really, really lightweight with it so that the short itself kind of feels like air. The short also comes with our signature sweat-proof pocketing system. So the first pocket right up on the hip, secure, the other down low on the left side for accessories. Look at that quality. Love that we launched this short right now because we're at the height of the summer. If you're out there just looking to rip around, have some fun, all the pockets, the functionality you could possibly need, this is the short.
wounded people and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners. We will do our best for this. So, and I think we showed that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, of personally President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Mr. President, if the peace deal will be issued, are you going to be willing to send American peacekeepers to Ukraine?
Well, we're going to work with Ukraine, we're going to work with everybody, and we're going to make sure that if there's peace, the peace is going to stay long term. This is very long term. We're not talking about a 2-year peace and then we end up in this mess again. We're going to make sure that everything's good. We'll work with Russia, we're going to work with Ukraine, we're going to make sure it works. And I think if we can get to peace, it's going to work. I have no doubt about it.
Your team is talking about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you rule that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
That the war will not end without addressing the root causes of this war. Have you had an understanding what are the root causes of this war?
Well, look, the war's going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one. A lot of reasons for it, and they'll be talking about it for a long time. But they'll be talking about the others. Look, India, Pakistan. We're talking about big places. When you look at, you just take a look at some of these. Go to Africa and take a look at that. Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo. That's been going on for 31 years. And so we've done a total of 6, so we really have 6, not including the fact that we obliterated, and it turned out to be a total obliteration, the nuclear, and as you said, the future nuclear capability of Iran. And this one, I think we're going to get solved also. I feel confident we're going to get it solved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you tell us about your conversations with European leaders and what they need to see to support an end to the war?
Well, we're going to be meeting with a great representative group and 7 very powerful, very big countries and great people, all friends of mine and friends of yours. And we're going to have some suggestions made. They want to see peace. They would like to see peace.
You said last night
President Trump, do you think it's fair for Ukraine and for Russia to achieve a lasting and durable peace if Ukraine cedes its territories that Russia hasn't yet conquered? Do you think it's a fair peace for Ukraine?
We're going to have a lasting peace. Just to answer the first part of your question, we're going to have a lasting peace. I hope it's going to be immediately. I hope it doesn't have to go on. And I think people, the whole world is going to be very happy with that.
Thomas, to that one right there, you guys can head up to Wayside Broadcasting Network to watch the remaining of that. And that's Trump holding a bilateral meeting with President Zelensky in the Oval Office. All right, guys, so now we're going to head to the last clip of the live stream. Shout out to Benny Johnson. We react to Benny Johnson over here on the channel often. We cover internet rages as illegal alien truck driver kills 3 Americans with semi. California gave the driver's license. Way to go, California. Let's take a listen.
What's up, guys? Spending madness must stop. We are suicidal as a society if we continue to let criminal aliens come into our country and operate our largest and most dangerous vehicles. A deadly crash caused entirely by an illegal U-turn in Fort Pierce, Florida, from a trucker. Who is that trucker exactly? He's an illegal Indian who criminally trespassed into our nation, and instead of being turned around like any other sane country would, we handed him a commercial driver's license in California. I say we, but it's a broken system, and now it affects all Americans. So Harlander Singh, 28, was driving in Florida and engaged in an illegal U-turn. You can see here, he decides to just turn in the middle of the interstate, and a vehicle smashed into his rig. Man should have never even been in this country, and here he is just looking with dead eyes as they pull the bodies of 3 Americans out from underneath his truck. Look at this. The dead-eyed expression of a man who just slaughtered an American family. No remorse, no concern, doesn't even speak English, should never have been in this country. The state of California handed him a commercial driver's license. This is an atrocious story. Now 3 Americans are dead. The internet is enraged by this. The entire story is revolting. Illegally enters the country, gets a CDL from Sanctuary State, California, who doesn't even ask whether he's an American citizen, brings his third world driving habits to America. Yeah, like maybe you can do illegal U-turns in India, where half the traffic is driven by horsepower, meaning a literal horse pulling a cart. But not here in America, where the speed limit is 70, and we have a modern society, modern country, with people actually traveling at modern speeds. Kills 3 Americans after horrifically illegal U-turn on a highway. Nonchalant, remorseless stare as authorities pull the dead bodies from the wreckage. Why? Well, who the hell cares? They're not his countrymen. He doesn't belong here. He has no connection here. Who cares if people in America suffer and die, and their lives are destroyed in the worst possible way, traveling 80 miles an hour down the freeway? Shocking footage. Illegal migrant makes outrageous rogue U-turn where his entire truck blocked the entire, look at, you can see, he blocks the entire, the U-turn block, he doesn't even look. He blocks the entire road. So they're driving this minivan, this poor family is driving this minivan. We have some good news for you, at the very least. I confirmed with ICE this morning, through the Department of Homeland Security, that they are seriously considering immigration enforcement at truck weigh stations across America. Now, truck weigh stations are mandatory stops that every truck has to make. There's enforcement vehicles there. You have to pull in and weigh. This is to ensure that you're not carrying larger loads or heavier loads than you're legally allowed to. That you're checking in, that you're making stops. Every truck has to pull in. Every truck has to stop. If you don't, they'll arrest you. There's horrible penalties for truck drivers that don't do this. This is a perfect place to do enforcement, to do legal enforcement of immigration status. Now, according to industry insiders in trucking, I have heard that this is a rampant problem, that this was a huge loophole that criminal aliens were able to figure out. They could go to sanctuary states, get commercial driver's licenses, and then drive in trucking jobs. Anyway, DHS confirmed to me that Harlander Singh is going to be somebody who changes everything for everyone, I guess, in a very dark way, for the good, because sometimes you have to let it get this bad for us to change things. So now a DHS spokesperson told me this morning that ICE Enforcement Act truck stops and DOT weigh stations are on the table. Secretary Noem and DHS is keeping all enforcement options on the table to keep America safe. This should have never happened. The Attorney General in the state of Florida, somebody who's a friend of the program named James Uthmeyer, he is not taking this lightly. He says that this man is going to probably die in prison. based on how Florida's going to charge him. This remorseless bastard.
I was
Look at
gonna
him,
say,
he doesn't
they
even
have
care.
the
He's
video on
completely
board.
expressionless. This is what stuns me. Like, he's not bothered by it at all. Look at him. This doesn't matter. It's not his country. He doesn't give a damn. He's just sending everything, sending all the money home, or he just doesn't care about Americans. It doesn't bother him. It's so evil. 3 innocent people killed in Florida because Gavin Newsom's California DMV issued a legal alien criminal commercial driver's license. The state government is asinine. How many more innocent people have to die before Gavin Newsom stops playing games with the safety of the American public? Praying for the victims and the families. We're going to protect the public, says Trish McLaughlin. She's the spokesperson for DHS. Gavin Newsom has blood on his hands. That's exactly right. The illegal alien truck driver killed 3 in Florida is an Indian who initially crossed the California border illegally and was arrested by Border Patrol. And he was processed for expedited removal by the first Trump administration, but claimed to fear going back to India. Oh God, you can just claim fear. And then he was released on $5,000 immigration bond, given a notice to appear. He was arrested by U.S. Marshals in California on Saturday, one of 3 counts of vehicular homicide. So he got all the way back to California. Goodness. California then gives him, look at this, gives him a driver's license. Illegal alien issued a CDL by California, doesn't even speak English. Sanctuary policies are deadly. Hold the illegal alien accountable and all the actors involved in issuing, including the company. Good for you. Good for you, Ron DeSantis. Here's the Attorney General of Florida sounding off on this, saying this man is going to die in prison because of how we're going to charge him in the state of Florida. God bless. And we feel very sorry for the families. Here we go.
After his truck jackknifed a minivan while making an illegal U-turn, killing the 3 people inside the van. The migrant, who is believed to have crossed the border illegally in 2018, was granted a commercial driver's license by the state of California. He now faces vehicular homicide charges and deportation. Florida Attorney General Kate Upmeyer is joining now to talk about this horrific situation. Attorney General, thank you so much for joining us. What was your reaction when you saw this footage and realized this man cost 3 people their lives?
Yeah, it's a horrific situation. California should not have provided this person the driver's license and a permit, not just for a car, but to drive large-scale trucks. To then drive into Florida, engage in this dangerous behavior and take the lives of 3 others is really a tragedy, but it shows how dangerous the open border policies under Obama and Biden have been that have continued to wreak havoc on communities across the country. We're certainly going to charge that person with the heaviest crimes we can and make sure that he gets locked up for as long as possible before then being deported back where he came from.
Yeah, and if you watch this footage, as you did and we just showed, I mean, the people in this black minivan had absolutely no time to react. It was a 30-year-old, a 37-year-old, and a 50-year-old. 2 of them died on impact, and 1 of them died at the hospital. Absolutely tragic situation. And you touched on this. Why, if you cross into the country illegally, are you allowed to get a commercial driver's license in the state of California?
Well, you shouldn't be able to, and we're certainly going to look at ways that we can go after California, fight back, and protect our citizens. Here in Florida, if you're illegal, you are not going to get a driver's license under no circumstances. We made that law in this state many years ago when we banned the opportunity for sanctuary cities. So it's a tragedy, but when it comes from California, nothing surprises me these days. Gavin Newsom should focus more on rule of law than crying and defending these heinous criminals.
Yeah, well, if he's found guilty of homicide, he will likely serve his sentence in Florida. Can you confirm that he will? And if so, what kind of time is he looking at before he's deported?
Sure. Well, yeah, I can confirm we're not going to deport or let this guy out of our sights until we have convicted him and ensured that he is behind bars for as long as possible, likely the rest of his life. Only then will we hand him over to ICE for deportation, but he's going to serve his time.
Okay, on to another topic here. Last week, you became the first state attorney general to ban a substance called 7-0. It's something that is sold in popular products that are found in vape shops. And this is important because Dr. Marty McCary says that this product could lead to the fourth wave of the opioid epidemic. It's something that not a lot of people have heard of before, although I know a lot of parents are watching right now and I'm sure are very interested in learning more about 7-0 and the products that have it in them. So what can you tell us about this product and why you decided to ban the sale of it?
Well, we applaud the Trump administration and the FDA. We saw their warning a couple weeks back about this dangerous drug. And we looked at the authorities here in Florida. The Attorney General can emergency reschedule something. We took emergency action and rescheduled this drug 7-OH or 7-hydroxy as it's called to make it a Schedule I drug. So it can no longer be sold here in the state. Medical experts have said it's 13 times more potent than morphine, and it was being sold in gas stations and smoke shops right next to a pack of Skittles and candy within the reach of kids. Look, I don't believe businesses should have intervention by government except in the most extreme of circumstances, and that is this. This is a dangerous product. It exposes our kids to harm. Parents didn't really know it was out there, right there on the shelves. So we took immediate action. We're going to protect Florida families and keep people safe.
Yeah, Dr. Marty McCary says that it's not like an opioid, it is an opioid, and it was being sold commercially next to other products, like you just said, not in the state of Florida anymore. Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
You're very welcome. All right.
Yo, these were sold out everywhere. Then my eBay alerts went off. Got them. Felt lucky, so I looked up some more heat. Now those are on the way from a dude in Indiana. Thanks, bro. Yeah, eBay.
I'm gonna bring up one last clip right here. It's a shorter one.
So President Trump's angry. That was not a pleasant ride home from Anchorage to Washington, D.C. They landed at 3 in the morning. And when President Trump is angry, people stay away. Okay? Same thing with me. So I knew about it. He's angry because Putin's leaving him alone. And he went out of his way, as everybody knows, to be respectful to this evil dictator. A lot of people object to that. But of course, as I wrote in my column on Sunday, my message of the day today, there's no other way to deal with Putin. You can't threaten him, he's got nukes. All right? You can't diminish him because then he'll just dig in and you'll never get a deal. So the president rolls out the red carpet and the flyover and the car and all of this. And of course, the anti-Trumpers who don't care about their country at all or the world, they use that as a criticism. We'll get into that a little bit. But Trump really thought he was going to walk away with something concrete like a ceasefire for 30 days. They could work out details of a peace agreement in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And it didn't happen. And it wasn't even close to happening. So Trump believes that Putin is now, disingenuous. And I think, to be fair, that President Trump overestimated his ability to bring this madman in. And the key to it is, as you'll read in my book, Confronting Evil, which is coming out in, 2 weeks now? Putin likes to kill people. He enjoys it. And I'll prove it. And it's tough dealing with something like that. And Trump was fairly successful the first 4 years using the same techniques. Flattery, respect, whatever. And it worked then. But now Putin's even further into his psychopathic cycle. Okay. So today, there was a meeting in D.C., and we're still awaiting the micro details. I'll have it for you tomorrow. Zelensky showed up, and that was the right call. Got to get Zelensky in here. And then a bunch of European leaders, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, British PM Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Finnish President Alexander Stubb. So they're all at the White House. And what is their collective take? It's interesting because it's not what you think. They're hemorrhaging money over there. All of these countries, all the NATO countries, they're going to pay for this Ukrainian thing. We paid more than $200 billion, the USA. But we have the money. They don't have it. So they're really, really trying to get some kind of leverage. Putin knows that. Now, Putin's running out of money, too, interestingly enough. Homeowners, when is the last time you checked on your home title? If your answer is never, then this is for you. Scammers are stealing titles, and your equity is a target. Criminals forge your signature. Just like that, your home title can be transferred out of your name. That's why I partnered up with Home Title Lock. So you can find out today if you're already a victim. Please use my promo code BILL at HomeTitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report. Plus, you will get a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts of any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BILL. So tomorrow on the No Spin News, I'll have a little bit more specificity on this. Changes. I mean, Zelensky was there, he goes, oh, we're not going to make any deal that are going to change our borders. Yeah, you will, okay? You'll have to. Unfortunately, it's not fair, it's not right, but you're going to have to give up some territory. And in return, you'll get security guarantees, which is going to be good for the Ukrainian people. But there's a lot of huffing and puffing going on over here. I will be on News Nation tonight at 9 p.m. with Leland Vitter. I may have updated specific information by that time. Okay, but I don't have it now. We're taping this in late afternoon. Okay, so ahead of the meeting in Washington, Trump puts out a social post. Quote, President Zelensky of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to, or he can continue to fight. Remember how it started? No getting back Obama given Crimea 12 years ago without a shot fired, and no going into NATO by Ukraine. Some things never change. So, yeah, the NATO thing is the easiest. Ukraine does not have to join NATO. And that, Putin is using that. It's a straw card. Remember, NATO is no threat to Russia. None. NATO's never going to invade Russia. It's European countries are the last thing they want. Okay? Putin just make, NATO, they're going to come after us. Oh, come on. It's just an excuse. But you take the excuse off the table by saying, okay, Ukraine's not going into NATO. Crimea is gone. It's gone. Not coming back unless you roll NATO tanks into it, and that starts World War III. Again, the column that I wrote on over the weekend is called Dancing with the Devil, what should happen now. So Trump's got to get tough with Putin, but here's the essential point. Trump does not have to get tough with Putin in public. Doesn't. Because that works against him. He's got to tell Putin privately, look, man, this is what's going to happen to you. Now, I'm not going to make an announcement, so it's mano a mano, a cage match between you and me. That doesn't get us anywhere. But you continue killing innocent people, and we're going to bankrupt your country. And you. And you're not going to be able to pay your generals millions of dollars to protect you, which is what it's Putin. Putin's power is based on the fact that he pays his army an extraordinary amount of money. Check it. Okay, those payments go down, the oligarchs that support Putin, they're already gonna get hammered. Putin's they'll throw them out. Not like Putin is one of these guys they love, they don't. So anyway, but to do it publicly is not the way to go.
Nope.
And that's enough.
Shout out to Mr. Bill O'Reilly. He makes a great point there to do it publicly. But yeah, that's what he's banking his power on, right? The fact that his army takes care of him and he pays them well to do so. Well, I want to thank you guys for hanging out tonight here on the corner. We will be back tomorrow for the live stream. Thank you for letting me bring you 2 live streams today. Due to me just getting my butt kicked. But I appreciate you guys' grace. So until tomorrow, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. Love yourselves, love one another, and be peaceful. Peace.